The smell of frying meat drifted across the clearing long before the soldiers realized how far scent traveled in the humid Luzon air. Mingling with the sharp bite of burned foliage and the metallic tang of spent cartridges, reminders of the battle that had only just faded. Near the American Field Hospital, beneath a patched canvas tent, griddles hissed as cooks pressed beef patties into shape, preparing meals for exhausted troops who hadn't tasted fresh food in days. Nearby, the rescued girls sat huddled in coarse army blankets, their stiff posture born not of strength but of long-conditioned fear. No one yet knew their names. They had been pulled from a Japanese garrison crushed between converging platoons of the 38th Division. The youngest looked barely 15, though exhaustion hollowed her face, while the eldest, perhaps 22, sat with hands clasped so tightly it seemed she still braced for commands that no longer existed. Private Sam Whitmore, carrying a tray of steaming patties, slowed as he passed them, remembering the half-collapsed blockhouse where they had been found, concrete walls buckled under shelling, air thick with sickness. Nothing in that outpost had prepared him for how small they looked now. Corporal Evelyn Hart, sleeves rolled up and face streaked with dust, knelt beside the girls, offering a soft smile despite the fatigue etched into her eyes. She had noticed how the smell of cooking meat made the girls tense, how the clang of spoons on trays triggered subtle flinches, reflexes carved by threat rather than habit. When she guided warm broth to the oldest girl's lips, the girl trembled as if simple heat were unfamiliar. Whitmore brought 2 plates soft patties on bread, no onions, and knelt carefully. The youngest reached first, touching the bread with hesitant fingertips, lifting it slowly as if expecting punishment. At the first breath of warm scent, her face crumpled and tears spilled down her cheeks, silent at first, then shaking her entire body. One by one the others followed, their tears rising from a place deeper than hunger, stopping even the medics and cooks in their tracks. "What did I do?" Whitmore whispered, but Hart only shook her head. "You offered kindness. They don't know how to hold that yet." As the girls cried, the camp seemed to fall under a strange hush, the jungle itself pausing as if listening. When interpreters finally arrived, one a Korean-American sergeant, the other a Filipino civilian, they knelt gently before the girls, speaking softly until the first hesitant words emerged. The oldest girl began her story, voice barely above a whisper, recounting how she'd been taken from a village near Kiu in 1942. Transported in a crowded, fetid ship from Korea to Taiwan to the Philippines, watching girls disappear along the way. Another, thin as a sparrow, described the comfort station, a dim concrete room where heat pressed like punishment, where food was rationed as reward or withheld as control, where silence became the only act of resistance. The Americans listened, their understanding shifting from pity to a heavy, quiet grief. The smell of frying meat, they learned, had reminded the girls of guards eating well while they starved. The simple act of receiving food without price had broken them open. One medic asked, without thinking, if the girls were Japanese, and panic rippled through them until the interpreters clarified they were Korean, taken by Japanese forces, not collaborators. Relief softened their faces, their shoulders lowering as though someone had finally spoken a truth they feared would be buried. When the oldest girl revealed something hidden beneath a floorboard, a list, the Americans sent a search party at dawn. They returned with a sweat-stained ledger of names, ages, and places of origin, some crossed out, others smudged beyond recognition. It was proof of a network far larger than this single garrison. Later, a second hidden room yielded a half-burned wooden chest containing medical logs, correspondence, and photographs, evidence meant to be destroyed but preserved by chaos. The girls watched the Americans handle these documents with solemn care, as though holding pieces of the lives they had been forced to live. Over the next days, the camp adjusted itself around them. Medics created a separate recovery area. Cooks prepared softer foods. Soldiers lowered their voices when passing. The girls changed too. The youngest began humming while folding her blanket. Another asked hard about her nurse's armband. The oldest sat with her back uncovered for the first time. Whitmore carved small wooden figures from ration crates and left them quietly, a bird, a cup, a bridge. At first untouched, then slowly embraced. The interpreters helped the girls express their fears about repatriation, whether they'd be welcomed home, whether home even existed anymore. Hart answered honestly, never offering false promises. When a transport officer arrived, clipboard in hand, the girls stiffened until Hart stepped between them, her calm authority shielding them from decisions made too quickly. Word soon came that repatriation vessels would depart from Lingayen Gulf. The news stirred hope and fear in equal measure. On the final morning, the cooks prepared cheeseburgers for the departing convoy. Hart hesitated before offering one to the oldest girl, but she accepted it with steady hands, taking a bite that softened her expression not with grief this time, but with reclaimed memory. She finished it slowly, then placed Whitmore's carved bird into his palm with a faint bow. As the girls boarded the truck, each looked back at Hart's steady presence, Graves' protective assurance, Whitmore's quiet compassion trying to memorize the faces of those who had helped them step back into the world. Just before climbing aboard, the oldest girl whispered one final thing to the interpreter. There was another station, farther inland, one the Americans had not yet discovered, and if her memory of the map was right, there were still girls alive there, waiting for someone to find them.
Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon.